Daylight, my MVVs, welcome.
Ooni of Ife smiled through the crisis. It was, a very serious tension, a day of tension in Ile-Ife when, they waited for those chiefs. They did not show up. Like 1 hour passed, 2 hours passed, the moon had, come out and, everything, they had to do everything as a finish certain kind of ritual or a particular kind of ritual before the moon goes back, okay? Yes, before the moon sets, okay? They're supposed to finish it, and those chiefs were not there. There is nothing as, being a very wise king. Do you know that if Ooni of Ife had not, stood still, they would have allowed this full moon ritual to pass? If Ooni of Ife, Paropo, and other elders had not stood still, they would have allowed the full moon ritual to pass. And that is why it's good to also, as a king, you must know your tradition. You must understand your tradition. And you see, Yanifa, child, God will bless that woman. There were certain rituals that were supposed to be done as soon as the moon, shows up. Those rituals are time bound, as in, it might not even last up to 15 minutes. That moon is already, going under. Ooni of Ife, even though those elders did not show up, they say, Kabiyesi, hurriedly ask them to go ahead and perform those ones. Those ones were the main ritual. You see how this is it of foreign there, right, and all of, they can do it anytime. These ones can be done anytime. They can do it on a Monday, they can do it on a Tuesday, they can do it on a Wednesday, on a Thursday, on a Friday, on a Saturday, on Sunday, any time of the month, any day they can do those. But you see this major third full moon, in fact, some people are saying they would have been able to do it again and in another 4 years, and others are saying in another 12 years. And everybody, especially those who didn't understand the tradition, had to calm down at the end of the day. When Kabiyesi, everybody began to explain to them what, that moon, that place where Queen Naomi had to go into that pond, okay, and that pap, where they would take pap together, Ogi, Kabiyesi and Olori Naomi, they'll tie their hands together, like their 4 hands together, and then they will open the hand, the 4 hands. Nami will stand in front of Kabiyesi. Then Nami will bring her 2 hands forward. Kabiyesi will bring his own 2 hands forward. They will tie it together. Then they'll put a plate of pap on that hand. Then they'll do some ritual incantation. They will lose it again. Then Kabiyesi will take from the pap and feed Naomi. Naomi will also take from the pap and feed Kabiyesi before the moon. They said if that one had not finished, that this whole thing would have collapsed. Like the whole wahala with Yanifa being here for how many months would have gone to nothing. But thank God. Dela writes, thank God. Man is not God. They say as the full moon rose high over the ancient city of Ile-Ife, it was supposed to mark the most glorious chapter in the ongoing restoration of Queen Naomi's, place beside the Ooni of Ife. For months, both the royal court and spiritual leaders had prepared tirelessly for this night, the third and final full moon ritual, a sacred series of rites meant to spiritually, emotionally, and culturally reunite the Ooni of Ife and Queen Naomi after years of separation. But on this night, everything nearly fell apart. What had been carefully planned and waited with deep, reverence was shaken to its very foundation. Yet, even in the midst of the disruption, the Ooni of Ife remained calm. smiling through the turmoil, standing in quiet dignity and hope. In the end, what could have been a night of royal shame turned into a spiritual triumph. But only because God, took control, right? Welcome back to Della Wright. Happy New Week to you. Thank you for being here. I love you guys so much. May this week bring you good tidings. May the Lord make his face shine upon each and every one of you. The same way that you have prayed for Olori Naomi, God is going to show you mercy in your time of need. I want to believe that everything went well because of our prayers, but it's not over yet. We need to continue to pray because God has really, really shown himself strong. These people were going to ruin everything, but God took control. They say from the moment Queen Naomi agreed to undergo the full moon ritual, the atmosphere within the Ife palace shifted. Elders knew they were not just preparing for a ceremony, they were preparing for history. Queen Naomi's return to the palace wasn't just about love or lineage. It is about legacy, the restoration of spiritual balance, and the breaking of an unusual silence between royalty and the divine. The final ritual was meant to take place under the third full moon. Traditionally, the moon represents clarity, renewal, and the ancestors' approval. The full moon ritual, known in Ife as Ifehan Oluwa, symbolizes public revelation and spiritual realignment. Queen Naomi was to stand with the Ooni under the night sky as all elements, earth, water, fire, and wind, witness their spiritual reunion. But what most people didn't know was that the ritual needed a final component, the offerenda rite. This sealing ritual performed by respected traditional rulers outside Ife was the spiritual stamp that completes the entire restoration, Two powerful monarchs, I told you that in the other, they were supposed to come. These are the people who are supposed to seal that ritual. They had been chosen to carry out this sacred rite. They are from Oshogbo and Ede, these people are, spiritually, strong. And of course, it's not Ooni of Ife who makes that decision, as in Ifas will do their incantation. They will, speak with the gods. The gods will make their selection. So the gods made that selection. Their presence would not only authenticate the ritual, but also symbolically declare to all of Yoruba land that Queen Naomi's place beside the Oni was not just welcome, but divinely and communally ordained. We heard that earlier that day, the palace was alive with preparation. Queen Naomi was in isolation, being spiritually prepared with sacred oil, prayer, chant, and cleansing rite. Doni himself went into seclusion for, personal, invocation. The calabashes were ready. The white dove, symbol of peace, was kept in a handcraft cage near the shrine. The elders had gathered. The palace chiefs were seated in order, and invited witnesses though restricted in numbers, had taken their place around the sacred grove right there in Ife. As the night drew closer and the moon crept into full glow, Queen Naomi emerged in full royal white regalia, her gele woven in white, her face seldom but glowing. They only walked out a few moments later wearing his, of course, beaded crown, the Ade Ara, a powerful emblem of Urumaye's lineage. They stood, side by side, hands lightly linked as the chief priest began to chant the ancient invocation. All seemed perfect until a subtle disturbance ran through the crowd. Whispered conversations, curious glances, something was wrong. The two monarchs who were expected to arrive with their own spiritual entourage had not yet appeared. Their drummers were absent. The dignitary pathway reserved for them remained empty. For a moment, the palace palace aide tried to manage the situation. There were whispers of traffic delays, of unexpected stop, but as the minutes stretched into an hour, the truth began to settle. The Farendes ride would not happen tonight. But Kabiyesi did not allow that deter him. He went ahead to perform the final full moon ritual, which, could have taken him another 4 to 12 years with Queen Naomi, to the glory of God. Well, this is what we have had. I'm going to bring you more update. Do not forget that these are all alleged, rumored, unverified information making the rounds on social media and should not be seen as fact.